Well, hello, and welcome to another episode of It's Story Time. Y'all know it's Friday, and we are in our Story Time series, and we are reading through A Table for One, or actually having a conversation around the chapters in A Table for One. But before we get started, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Share this information with somebody else. Let's go on over to Grandma's Cookie Jar and see what Grandma's Cookie Jar have in store for us today. Hope everybody is enjoying TGIF today. Gotta dig a little deeper in Grandma's Cookie Jar today. Ooh, this is good. It says, put on your positive pants. Oh my goodness, put on your positive pants. So y'all know sometimes your phone will start talking to you even when you're not talking to it. Phone sitting over there all on silence. And then now she wants to answer my questions and get in on the conversation. All righty, let's keep it moving. Hope is stronger than fear. Ooh, it is. Hope is stronger than fear. This is one I need to put up on my refrigerator so that I can keep it, well, actually, both sides, and put on your positive pins. Well, all right. We have a great conversation today. We are going to talk about single, sassy, with standards, right? We're going to learn what standards are today. Mm-hmm. Back to the ginger, right? Ooh wee. All righty. So before we get started on the chapter that we're going to read today, we're going to talk about standards, y'all. You know, people act like when you got standards or you have, I want to say a a plan that you walk by or that you work by, or you have a set of goals or you're in order. People act like there's something wrong with that, right? There's nothing wrong with mapping things out the way that you would have it to go. Now, life doesn't always work the way we want it to work, but guess what? When you have a map, it's going to help you to get towards your desired goal. And oftentimes you get some wonderful surprises along the way. I know I have. Ooh, I've gotten a whole bunch of surprises along the way, right? Man, oh man. So the chapter that we're going to talk about today, or that we're on today, is chapter 3, Single and Scripture. Okay? And so one of the things that I wanted to pull out when she talked about scripture and your relationship, your relationship, my relationship with God, people say their relationship with the creator of the universe, whatever your belief system is, we're talking about the heart of the single, right? And I know I feel so much better when I take my time out and I go and I meditate and I go into prayer. I get so much clarity. I get, your internal guiding system is actually sharpened. So you really hear, and versus you really hear, I want to say hear, but you also feel it, right? So let's talk about these standards, right? Especially in this modern dating world or dating arena, standards. We're going to give us what Google says standard is, right? I'm going to see if my phone was going to answer when I said Google, right? Anyway, personal standards are mostly a set of behaviors that we choose to consistently indulge in. That's good right there, right? We can kind of stop it and think about that right now. What type of behaviors do we consistently indulge in? What do I indulge in? When I say, I like old fashioned courtship, right? I like the old fashioned man pulls out the door, hands you flowers, but I do my part as well, because if he opens a door for you, leaning over to open his door, really, okay, it's not that he's just serving you or me, I want to say, but it's reciprocating, right? So the other person feels your your presence, your involvement, or you being in, right? Let's go back to these standards, right? So my standard is really to do unto others as I would have them do unto me, but also going a step further, listening to what they need, right? When I started listening to and studying the love languages, right? When I started listening to that, I developed a better relationship with my children, because I understood who they were and how they received love. Was it affirmation? Was it, acts of service? Was it, just all of the different 5 love languages? What was their love language? And when I got it, relationship changed and it got better, right? It also says, here I go, y'all, trying to be 25 and trying to read without my sexy specs. Hold on, let me grab them, All right, let's go here. Just for a second here, I wanted to make sure that it says these behaviors are built upon expectations you have of yourself in a variety of situations. These are, in some respects, performance standards. In other words, they lay down the benchmark of performance of your life. for your life, right? Performance standards of your life. So if you don't have any type of standards or expectations of somebody that you might be dating or courting or, what have you, or even standards that you set for yourself, like, how do you present when you go out? How do that extra print when you go past the mirror, the extra spray of cologne? What is it? What type of standards do you set, or do you just throw on something and just go on out the door and say it is what it is and here I am, right? People actually treat you according to that if you're taking care of yourself. And this is a standard that you're setting for yourself. It's my standard that as a single, I'm going to make sure that I'm living, in my best life. Am I doing for myself? Am I taking care of myself? Am I connecting with my God? Am I connecting? Am I taking my time out to meditate, right? Those standards, right, of my life every day. Am I getting up? Am I exercising? Y'all telling myself last couple of days I've been slipping, but I'm getting right back on, right? Am I making conscious decisions because I have went through and did my work by reading books and helping and taking care of myself, right? Am I doing all of those things? So she talked about one of the things that I really loved in this chapter. She talked about her time of devotion, right? Her time of spending time in meditation, her time of connecting, right? And her time of reading her scripture. Those are all things that I think we get so busy that we keep running and running and running and running, and we don't take time to do those things. We don't take time to meditate. Meditation, it really does help for us to slow our mind down, slow our brain down. When I first started going into meditation, let me tell y'all something. I started going into meditation, I realized my brain was like Grand Central Station. It was just going and going and going and did not slow down. I had to slow myself down because I find myself racing. And if you're racing, my dad used to say, baby, stop and smell the roses. And I wish I'd heard him back then because I kept running. Daddy, I am. I kept running, right? I kept running. Man, do you know how many roses I missed? How many beautiful sunrises I missed? How many beautiful sunsets I missed? Because we are racing, racing, racing. So today, as we're talking about setting the standards for our life, slowing down to stop and smell the roses, right? So one of the things that I love here when she talks about single stuff, she says, I'm a music connoisseur. I love jazz and blues and I love piano, right? So we stopped it, and I just learned these things about myself, right? Why? Because I was racing, running, right? So I hope some of you can identify with what I'm talking about so you all can stop and slow down and smell those roses. She talked about At Last by Ella James. Oh my goodness. Y'all know they played that. Actually, Beyonce sung that at the dance of, I can't think of the event, but the first dance with Barack Obama and Michelle Obama when he was elected president. She sang that song so beautifully, right? And what our chapter today is talking about is this is why we aren't settling for just any old husband, right? Because I'm sure there's somebody lurking around that you can just grab up if you really wanted to, right? Doesn't mean that they're not even yoked with you, or something. But she said we didn't just grab up any old husband because most of us are still doing our work. Sometimes we're doing it in the relationship, and that causes issue because we're making somebody pay for the stuff that somebody else caused us or the issues that somebody else caused us, right? Or some of the bumps and bruises along the way that we're still dragging along with us because we haven't done the work to help ourselves to heal in those areas. And I was watching, y'all know I love the Dear Future Wifey podcast with Lateria Whitfield. I love it because there's so many lessons that we can learn by listening to other people's stories, right? The Dear Future Wifey podcast, it won #1 podcast for last year. I think that was just amazing. I celebrate you, sir. Also, the lessons through other couples and their relationships. I love watching it because it helps me to understand, what standard do you have? Are you dating or are you courting, right? And when I mean that in reverse, if you're male or female, but which one are you doing, right? So are you courting or are you dating, right? I prefer courting, man. I tell you, because it's amazing. That dating thing, that's kind of scary over there, right? But you know what? They talked about, there was a couple on there that I sat there and I watched the whole thing. It was like an hour and 30 something minutes. And it captured me because of their love story. They met through Instagram, right? And he was so intentional and purposeful, and he had been praying for a wife, and she'd been praying for a husband, and she didn't even, they had to shake themselves and say, is this really real, right? He flew out to see her on their first date after, I think it was a couple of weeks or something of them talking back and forth. He flew out there and had a whole plan because he said it felt right in his spirit. See, a lot of people say, wait, I got to go pray on it. But if you're praying all the time, what you got to pray for now? You know, I mean, it's still good to continue it, but people say, oh, I can't do that right now because and they feel it. They have the peace with it. They have the understanding of it. It's all in alignment. There's no red flags or any of that, and they still are, guess what? They're dealing with their past issues, right? So when she talk about this Etta James at last, this is why we aren't settling for just any old husband. She says that she wants this song played at her wedding reception. And that is the only part of her wedding she's already planned out, right? And she says that she wants to I can truly sing this about someone worth waiting for, right? Etta soared. Her vocals makes us all dreamy every time they play this song, right? That at last, right? I think that is so amazing and so beautiful. But guess what? Again, we have to set those standards. And why do we set standards? Because if you don't, what do they say? If you don't stand for something, you're gonna fall for anything. Man, I tell you, I don't want to fall for anything. I want to make sure that I'm walking by my standards, right? And it's okay. Let those standards be known. And you know what? The right person won't run. And the right person won't criticize you for having standards, right? For you know, for wanting that to be the feminine energy to his masculine energy, right? There's a lot of things going on and a lot of talk about modern women and modern men, and down to the core, we're male and we're female, right? And so you're not talking against any other group or anything like that, but we're just talking about single female right now, right? So when we say single female, and I say at the core, I mean that masculine and that feminine energy, right? So whatever your belief system, whatever it is, it is getting in tune and in touch and being and knowing yourself, being purposeful, being intentional, right? So I just love it when she say that at last, that beautiful dance, right? That at last dance. You want to go to a little bit further. She talks about, and she closed this out as she goes through talking about, your connection and your relationship. Then she talks about in your relationship with yourself. That's what I want to say too. Your relationship with yourself. What is my relationship with myself, right? Am I getting to know me, right, down to the core? Who am I? What are my standards, right? Do I, not kiss on the first date? Some people say, oh, girl, that is so old fashioned. Okay. So what was wrong with old fashioned? Old fashioned biscuits or old fashioned rolls taste a whole lot better than popping a can and popping them in the oven and you get a little cardboard biscuit with some butter, right? I'd rather take the old fashioned any day, but that's me. That's me, right? So she says, we singles may not have vows from a husband, but we have promises from the creator of the universe. And if that's not enough for now, it's never going to be enough. And we won't find the kind of true joy we often erroneously seek in the arms of a mortal man. So let the love affair begin. And the love affair beginning with yourself and with setting your standards and your boundaries and just knowing, being able to communicate those standards to somebody else when you're talking, when you're having that. I changed the interrogation to investigation, right? Nobody wants you to sit there and interrogate them and gruel them, right? But you're having a great conversation, you're ebbing and flowing, you're vibing. You're saying, you know what? I'm feeling something here. Let's keep talking. You keep talking and you keep hearing, right? You're hearing what that person is saying. You're thinking about what's going on. You're thinking about their relationships, right? And so I think it's a slow dance, right? It doesn't have to be a masquerade ball, right? It doesn't have to be, I'm putting on my Sunday best just for this courtship or this date. No, it's you being who you are and being able to articulate that to somebody else, right? So these are the lessons that I've learned along the way, and I am having a ball learning even more and more and more about myself. And I'm saying, not so bad, right? All righty. Well, I hope you got something out of today's conversation. I know I had a ball listening and thinking about, what are my standards? I know I had these guiding principles and these rules, but like, okay, what are my standards? What is it that I really want? Do we sit down and we think about that, give ourselves permission to say, this is what I really want? And it's okay. And just because he may not be it or she may not be it, it's nothing wrong with that person. There's nothing wrong with them, right? It is, they just don't evenly yoke with you. I learned what that meant the other day too. We all have our own thoughts, but I was listening to that podcast and they talked about the egg yolk, right? And we're gonna finish on this note. Talked about the egg yolk. How when you crack an egg, the egg blends together, right? That's what it should be when you're blending with your perfect partner. And we say perfect, nothing is perfect, but whether you're perfect for you, right? Or perfect for me. You blend. So that egg yolk just blends together and you can't even tell the different part of that egg anymore because all of that yolk blends together, right? And I think that's what makes for a great relationship, amongst other things, right? So don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Share this information with somebody else. Listen, learn, leverage the information. You never know who's really just trying to hear what is it that I didn't learn about relationships. Oh, wait a minute. I need to set some standards. I need to have some boundaries. I need to have some rules in which I govern myself by. Alrighty. See you all later. And bye for now. Stay fearless.